Dear former admissions officer, surprise, it's me again. Hi, I'm Steve Hahn, and I'm a former admissions officer from the University of Chicago, and I now work as a senior strategist here at Crimson. Dear FAO, you've mentioned in these videos that you've worked with a lot of students to get into the Ivy League. Can you tell us about those students' applications and why you think they got in? Would love to work with you, Angela. That's a great question, Angela, and I would love to work with you as well. So when we're thinking about Ivy League applications or just top, I'll say 15 school successful applications, we'll talk about them generally first, and then I'll talk about one of my favorite students. In general, when you're thinking about a highly selective school successful application, there's a few components that go into it, but mostly out the gate, you're gonna wanna know that first and foremost, you are a student applying to the college, so academically you need to be able to keep up. Now, when we're looking at the other categories, we're looking at extracurriculars and we're looking at fit as well, and those are important categories that take applications from great to outstanding. So we're looking for outstanding applications when we're accepting kids to these most selective schools. Let's first think about extracurriculars. With extracurriculars, we're looking for high levels of impact, and we're looking at that ideally at the national or international level. It can be statewide or regional as well. Those are obviously also important, and we need school activities in there just to know that you're someone that's involved at your school and that you're able to make friends. But we want to have a high level of impact if possible, and that's done in a lot of ways. It doesn't always have to be through math competitions. Like, you don't have to make USAMO every year to get into these top schools, but we're looking for, again, just like a high level of quantifiable, measurable impact. Now, when we're thinking about fit, which is the category that's probably the most elusive, but is the one that can really differentiate an application, we're looking at your essays, and we need to see essays that, one, are able to function and succeed at a college level, and specifically at like an Ivy League level. But we also need to know that they're essays that best show who you are in a three-dimensional level, right? We're looking for essays that ideally give your application dimension beyond just what you've done in the classroom and in your clubs. And so when we're thinking about that, specifically one of my students just got into UPenn. We're very proud of her. She got an early decision this past cycle. This is a student who's interested in computer science. She's extremely qualified in computer science. She also does a lot of dance, and she's an extremely good writer. When she was thinking about what to best talk about in her personal statement, though, she wasn't sure how to best showcase who she is as a person, to best explain why she does what she does. And the essay that she ended up writing was one about her grandmother. Her grandmother comes from a country that she does not speak the language from, but her grandmother more or less raised her. And so it's a beautiful essay that talked about, again, just like what love looks like for her, and familial love specifically, and how that's shaped her, and like what her outlook is on life, because how can she be so close to someone that she doesn't really communicate with on a language level? And so she was able to really showcase that. And then that personal narrative, even though she didn't mention it in the personal narrative, she was able to use that as momentum to talk about why she wants to go into coding, what kind of like computer science job she hopes to have one day, what the marginalized communities that she wants to support through her work look like. And so her application was extremely packaged well through that as well. I tell all my students when they join Crimson that your application, in terms of what you're putting into it content-wise, is just as important as how you're packaging it. So when you're packaging an application, it needs to have a clear narrative. There needs to be a clear through line with your application. And so her through line with her application was really tied together using this important personal narrative component of who she is. And so again, how the food is plated is just as important as the way the food tastes. I wish you the best of luck in figuring out how an Ivy League application might look like for you specifically. It's gonna look different for every single person. And if you have questions about what your top school application might look like, please leave them in the comments below.